Hi, Rusty.
Greetings.
How's
You
life?
having fun yet?
Too early to tell. Huh.
Okay.
This is what? What am I doing? That's weird.
Wonder if that's Jeff.
Let's see. Get it. Okay, wait a minute. I think we're recording. Okay. It's Sam.
Hey, there you go. It is me.
Hi, Sam.
Hi, how's it going?
All right.
Oh, there's Rusty.
Sam, what's happening?
Same old, same old. How about you? Man, that sun is pretty intense. Coming through the window.
Spectacular.
Huh. You know if
I seen.
Rutenbeck is gonna join tonight?
I don't know. Didn't get any replies to the email I sent out.
So he orders some plans for the roll-off from that, what was it, backyard observatories? You saw that email that he sent out, I'm thinking.
I saw the email. Yes.
And he said that he ordered those plans for $150. But I haven't seen anything from him as far as an invoice or a receipt or anything, and or how did he pay or whatever. I'm just curious.
I'm
if
looking.
we need to reimburse him for that money, or if Jeff used the card to pay for it or whatever, because I don't have my card for the credit union. Jeff has it, so if we need to pay for anything, he will have to do it.
Okay, I've got his email now. Yeah,
Oh,
he got
speaking of, there he is,
Oh, where?
Jim.
Jim and Alan. Hi.
Hi.
Oh, Jim, I was just talking about you.
Okay. Question for me?
That email that you sent regarding the plans that you ordered from backyard observatories,
Yes.
did you place an order with them? And you, how do you send payment? Did you send payment, or did Jeff help you pay for that, or how did that go?
So the easiest way to buy it was to charge it to PayPal. So I just put it on my personal PayPal account, assuming that I would ask you guys to reimburse me.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah. And I haven't noticed that they have shipped them. I haven't received them yet.
They did ship them?
Yes.
Okay.
Sometimes they take that pretty loosely, like when they're getting ready to ship something. Sometimes you get a word from companies that they've shipped them, but at least
Yeah.
in progress.
Hello, Alan.
Oh.
Ah,
And all the rest of you, Rusty. I see Billy and I see Susie out there.
Raise your hands, everyone who gets that reference.
Oh my God,
Romper,
that sounds like,
bumper, stomper, do.
is that romper room?
Yeah,
With the
something
magic
like that.
mirror?
I can't even remember whether it's Mr. Roberts or Romper Room or something like.
It
Romper
was
room.
romper room with the mirror, with the magic mirror that can see
Yep.
everybody.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I can remember sitting on the living room carpet watching the television.
Yeah. They never called my name though. I felt neglected.
Yeah, I suppose.
Although, of course, I watch it in Spanish when I live in Puerto Rico, so.
Okay.
I don't think they knew me then.
Well, that's good that you got it in Puerto Rico anyway.
It was usually like a year later, right? It's like because it goes through that dubbing process, and then we're usually like one season behind.
Huh.
I don't know. Now with cable and all that stuff, you probably get it all at the same time. But at that time, it was just network TV, and we usually got all that stuff in syndication, which came out like a year after. But you know, I met all those characters speaking in Spanish with some strange accent that I couldn't recognize, and they all sounded exactly the same, no matter what show you were watching, because it was the same people dubbing all the shows, you know.
Like Japanese cartoons getting dubbed into English.
Yep.
Hey, Sam, I got a
Yes.
question for you.
What's that?
One of the electricians I worked with at Oscar Mayer,
Yeah.
he was from Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
He's got family there.
Yeah.
And his name is Eddie Santiago.
Oh, no relation. Santiago is probably one of the most common last names,
Okay.
along with Perez and Diaz and all the other ones. Sort of like Smith
And Jones.
Jones, yeah.
Jones.
Yeah, Smith and Jones. They are it's pretty common.
Yeah. I was just curious. I keep thinking about that, and then I never remember to ask you.
Oh yeah, I just ran into this is really bad. I just ran into a kid and a deer that is from Puerto Rico, and he graduated from college in 2017. I graduated from college in 1979. It kind of made me feel very old when I was talking to him, and he went to the same school that I did too.
Well, I graduated from college in 1975.
Dang.
Well, the first time anyway.
Hello, Paul.
All.
Hello. Who?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm here.
Bless you.
So my video turned off. Excuse me.
Check something here. Okay. Just wanted to make sure that I was the one recording this. A little hiccup a minute ago. Mike.
Hello.
Glad to have you here. Yeah, I think Jeff might still be in Oregon, so I don't know if he'd be able to join us remotely or not. For him, it's only 5 o'clock. So. Oh. Jason or Paul going to join us? Paul Seeger, I mean.
I don't know.
Yeah, I talked to Paul a week and a half ago, but not since then.
Anybody go out this weekend? I can't remember the last time the
Yes.
skies were as good as they were.
I did not. I thought Gamino went out to Menke. Were you there?
Me, Rolando, and Steve Sinkson, we were out there.
Did anybody else show up?
Nobody from the club. We had 5 people from the public show up.
Okay.
We had our PAC had their picnic Saturday, so that's where most of all the PAC members were.
Was your picnic daytime or nighttime?
It started out about 6:30, and then we finally left there about 1.
Very late night.
Byron and I set up telescopes, so.
I'll tell you what, the best 3 nights in recent time was Friday, Saturday, and last night. The wife and I went out to Lost Grove Lake about 10:30 Saturday night to see if we could see any meteors, and I think we saw 6. It wasn't anything spectacular, but peak was last Thursday, so it would have been better. And I guess Byron said that him and Rusty, Rusty was looking, I guess, at his screen, but Byron said he saw a bunch of them over there Friday night at Castle.
Yeah, we saw a few of them. I saw some too. Yeah, while I was out there. But
Some of the visitors out at Menke Saturday said they saw a fireball go by.
I saw one early in the morning on Saturday at the Moline Cemetery. Just one, but it was a good one. It's best to see him after midnight, I've heard. Is that correct?
Yeah,
That is correct.
yeah.
Yeah, this is like just before dawn, right before sunrise. And it was a pretty nice one.
They say it has something to do with the way they enter the earth at that time. It's better like from 2 till 4 in the morning or something.
What's happening is that time is the part of Earth that you're standing on is facing directly into the meteor swarm. So it's basically like you going straight through a blizzard.
Yeah, I understand. Not to remember that. The best one I ever saw had to be back about, I want to say early 2000s. Come out on my deck, and it's kind of light polluted here in Northeast Davenport, 53rd Utica Ridge area, and the Leonoids was going on. And I think I saw more meteors that night about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. I got up, went out on the deck, and man, there was just one after another. And that was in town. It probably would have been even better if you would have been in a darker sky.
When are the
What year-
Leon?
What year was that?
Oh, it had to be like 97, 98, something like that.
They say the Leonid meteor shower gets really strong peaks like about every 33 years. And I think that was about the last time that should have happened.
Yeah, it was right in that between 90, probably between 95 and 2000, right in that area.
Hmm.
And what month do those take place?
November.
Oh, okay.
And I think the
Usually.
comet that spawns them has a 33-year orbit, so that's why you get the peaks that often.
hmm Sometimes I travel up to Madison, Wisconsin on Saturday night to a place where I used to drive race cars, and I'm just a spectator about once or twice a year now. But between Dubuque and Madison, there's some really dark skies in there, like about Dickeyville, Platteville, right in that area. Boy, you get out of the car about 1 o'clock in the morning and look up, and man, it's dark there.
Hmm.
So, but it'd be still a 2-hour drive from the Quad Cities, and you'd have to know a farmer or something and say, "Hey, can I sit up on your grounds and check it out?" I'm sure if you ask permission, there's several that would let you do it, but it's still a 2-hour drive.
Are there Amish who live in that area?
I think maybe south of there a little bit, maybe more between Macokota and Dubuque. But it
I
could
remember
be, yeah, there's Amish in Wisconsin too.
I did a day trip up to southwestern Wisconsin, actually around Platteville one day, and I passed a couple of Amish on the road.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me.
It's 7:07. We should get started. Okay. Meeting should be recording at my end. So, did everyone get the agenda that I passed out, that I sent out?
Yes.
Okay, so yes, there is an addendum to that is relevant to us. Beginning today, St. Ambrose University is mandating masks for everybody indoors, whether you're vaccinated or not. So I'm thinking we should apply that also to the classroom at Menke Observatory for future events. They didn't say anything about social distancing this time, so I don't think we'll have to resort to the no more than 2 people in the classroom at any time for that. But yes, please do wear a mask if you're inside. And especially for the public events, because I mean, we get a lot of crowds there and they all want to view through the 14-inch telescope. That dome can get crowded really fast. And so.
Okay, we'll certainly do that.
And I did see a small supply of disposable masks on one of the tables in the classroom, just in case some people forget to bring ones. If we do need to get more, though, I'm hearing on the news that those disposable one-use masks are suddenly becoming in short supply. So maybe the club ought to buy another box or 2 of them pretty soon, like with Eastern Iowa Star Party coming up quickly. And we got a few more public events out there this year. So. Any objections to, I mean, I could go out and shop for a box sometime this week and build the club's treasury.
Yeah,
Any objections? All right.
Nope, that sounds fine.
All right. All right. Any questions about St. Ambrose's updated COVID mask policy?
so does that mean that we're extending our moratorium on using their facilities for the meeting?
unless you want to mask up in the classrooms, and they are still requiring visitors to check in at various points on campus. I'll leave that. I mean, I won't summarily make that decision, but how does the rest of the club?
Well, I don't mind wearing the mask. But having to check in every time that you come in, that seems kind of inconvenient. Especially since if there was a check-in right there at the entrance, but you have to go to a different building.
No check-in at McCarthy. No, nearest check-in place would be Galvin.
Yeah, that's like on the other corner, right?
Not all the way in the other corner, but it's
Isn't that where their art center is?
the Fine Arts Center. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Well, we'll just all be doing the Zoom thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure that it's convenient for those of us that live out in the country to not have to drive all the way in, but I like to get together every once in a while.
Yeah, it's nice to socialize and actually have contact with people. Than the Zoom thing, I get it, but the darn virus just isn't cooperating with us very well either.
No. Could go on a rant as exactly why that's happening, but I won't.
Yeah, it doesn't get you anything.
Really upsets Jeff that we don't have our pie night afterwards then.
I miss that too.
Yeah.
Especially since I haven't been able to. Yes. Actually, I think
I needed to meet with Jeff for something, and it was Sunday, so it was Saturday when I called him on. We agreed to meet for breakfast on Sunday morning. So Gamino, Jeff, and I just met for breakfast at Village Inn. It was good. It's been a while since I've been there.
Yeah, very good breakfast there.
Yep.
Well, so no objections to sticking with Zoom for now.
Yeah. Works for me.
As far as I know, no plague lasts forever. So sooner or later, we'll be able to get back together again.
One of the two is gonna win, right? The plague or us?
And even after the Black Plague, there were some survivors.
Yep.
All right. All right, moving on then. Past events. QCAS had our public night on July 31st. As I recall, there was quite a bit of smoke in the air that night. So
Yes.
seeing conditions were pretty kind of hazy. But Jeff and I made use of this list of double stars that I found on a Facebook post, and that turned out pretty well through the 14-inch. How about anyone else? How did you find the? How was your observing that night?
Are you asking me?
I'm asking anybody.
Well, I went out there. I was with Orlando, and he was setting up his stuff. I think the stars came out too late. By the time we aligned and did everything.
That's right. It was cloudy at first, wasn't it?
It was very cloudy until about 10.
That's about
something.
10 o'clock. That sounds about right.
And by the time that the sky cleared and we finally got an alignment, I think well, I didn't bring my equipment. I just went out there, and Gamino had his equipment set up, but I think he pretty much gave up by then. And so
Mhm.
I left and he packed and he left. I think you got Jeff and you were the only ones that stay out there. And then there was that kid that came, what was his name? Byron, somebody that came from, was it Dubuque or something? And he set up his stuff
It's
out there.
either Dubuque or Cedar Rapids.
Yeah,
Yeah, but Byron, I remember that much.
yeah.
Yes, he brought 4 telescopes with him.
4 telescopes. Yeah, I know. He had a pretty nice dub in there. It was big, whatever it was. It was like a 12 or 14 inch, wasn't it?
At least.
I didn't look through it, but it was pretty nice. It looked pretty nice. The other telescopes were just your average run of the mill.
One was a pretty good size refractor. Pretty sure it was a refractor.
He had 2 refractors and then he had two Dobbs.
Yeah, he enjoyed it. He and his wife, they enjoyed themselves.
I don't know if it was wife or girlfriend or what. I can't remember.
I remember half the time she was sleeping in their van.
Well, yeah.
All right. Okay, and then yes, August 7th, we were supposed to have the meteor shower party, but the weather did not cooperate. And so now we've still got that 4.5-inch telescope that we're going to raffle off then. So what are we going to do with it? We're going to keep it until the next big public event and try to raffle it off again.
I assume so.
I'm guessing Eastern Iowa would not be a good place for that, since we're only got
No.
like 24 people scheduled to show up.
Yeah, you wouldn't get enough money out of the raffle if you did that.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't know when we would have another big activity that, other than the meteor shower. I don't think we ever have that many people in one place.
We don't. Other than that, in Eastern Iowa, all we have is the Messier Marathon and what's the 4th one that we do?
Yeah, I think we should assume that we won't use it until a year from now at that same event, unless something comes along and we say, wow, there's going to be a lot of people at this. Maybe this would be a good time to raffle that off.
Okay, so in the meantime, Sam, are you the one holding on to it?
Yeah, it's downstairs in my basement, but I don't know where else would we keep it. I'd hate to take it to Menke and leave it there.
Not the best idea.
Now, are you willing to keep it, Sam?
Yeah, until my
At
wife
least-
decides that it's taking too much room in the basement.
Yeah, okay, well, you let us know if you need some
Yes.
alternate.
All right, well, guess not much else can be said about that. And then this past Saturday, St. Ambrose had a public night at Menke, and well, we just said the weather that night was gorgeous. Unfortunately, only a handful of people showed up. We really need to promote these better. I mean, I don't think just posting these in our Facebook pages is enough.
Well, I didn't even know that it was happening until I saw the posting in Facebook. But by then, I had other things to do that afternoon and I didn't want to have to just rush and run out there, so I didn't make it. Yeah, but I didn't, and again, the calendar that is on our website hasn't been updated in a long time, so if I need to find out what the activities are, I used to go there and see what was scheduled for what day, and it hasn't been updated in a long time, so unless somebody sends a reminder, I don't exactly know everything that's going on.
We need to get a hold of Jason and get him to update the calendar on the website, or hand it off
Or
to
Matt.
somebody else, or Matt.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly the reason they gave for not updating it, but because at least when people used to ask me, I said, well, just go to our website and see what events are coming up, but I cannot even tell people that anymore.
Well, I can get up a better rapport with communications and marketing from St. Ambrose. Well, actually, I've sent them the dates way back at the beginning of the season.
Yep.
And we also tried to send out word to local TV stations about the meteor shower party. We should do that for our public events. We should do that for all our public events at the observatory. Thing is, I don't know specific contact names. Does anybody here know specific contact names for the local TV stations?
I don't.
I just call Eric Maitland. He's a big, he talks about neat landscape photos and astronomy on the weather reports once in a while. Just call down to the weather station or down to KWQC, and I'll talk to Eric and see maybe if he can bring it up occasionally.
That'd be good. That's very good.
Is there anything in the Quad City Times about these public events anymore? I know sometimes I think they were in there, but I don't know if it's published much anymore.
I don't know. Unfortunately, I keep falling behind on reading them. So, but yeah, that'd be another good place to contact.
I mean, not too many people actually get the newspaper, but people do get it online too.
Right.
I have sent out news releases in the past. They don't always use them, of course.
Well, it's a nice road out to Minky all the way. There's no gravel anymore, so that's a plus.
Yes. And this might help for the next one. October 1st is St. Ambrose's last public event out there for the season. And I just got an email. It's asking, it turns out that's the same week, that's the same as homecoming weekend at St. Ambrose. And the email is asking if the Alumni Association could promote the Star Party more. Let's see, what's the exact wording in here? If I can find that email again. Pardon me. Okay. Right. They're asking if I'd like the alumni office to promote the October 2nd event more widely, in addition to all the homecoming activities they're going to be doing. And I'd like that very much. But I want to make it clear what the revised mask mandate, that if everyone in the club has agreed to the revised mask mandate before I reply to them. So we're agreed, then I want to apply that to the next public event. So, but anyway, yeah, the St. Ambrose Alumni Office is willing to promote the October 2nd one.
Yeah, I think that would be fine.
Okay. I'll let them know.
So we have a public event. The next one is August 28th.
That is QCAS's next one, yes.
Oh, okay, all right.
And before that, August 21st, PAC is having their next public night.
Right.
And then E EISP, September 4th through 6th. Now, 4th through 6th, that's Saturday through Monday. Now, as I recall, we used to do them Friday through Sunday, where Sunday, well, we didn't really do any activities that day. It's just left it open for anybody who wants to linger and stay out one more night. So of course, we're
Except
not
that-
having, sorry.
Except that is Labor Day weekend, so Monday is
Yes.
off, so. I think the whole idea was that people would stay that Sunday night and everybody, they could stay there that Sunday. Then that is a double-edged sword because a lot of people plan to be out of town on Labor Day weekend. So we may get people, we may, or not. I, for one, I'm not gonna be, I don't know if I'm gonna be there or not. I told Jeff I was gonna be, but then the other things that come up and I still don't know for sure.
So the last time Jeff mentioned that we have 24 people registered for it. Has any been indication that the number's gone up since then?
I don't know where the list is. I think he keeps the list.
I'll make a note to get in touch with Jeff as soon as he's back in town.
You know, a number of years ago, I think the first time we had the Eastern Iowa Star Party on the Labor Day weekend, there was quite a conversation about, you know, that could be a good weekend for some people and a bad weekend for other people. And yeah, it's just, you know, somebody could be out of town or have visitors in town or other conflicts. On the other hand, it is a 3-day weekend. And so this year we chose to do it on that weekend. So, you know.
I think the reason for doing it on that weekend also was that it's supposed to be a new moon, isn't it?
Yes, it's probably the weekend closest to the new moon.
When the moon's next going to be full, that sounds about right. Yep. So yeah, all valid points. So as far as I know so far, no guest speakers still. I think we're still planning to do the swap meet.
That's right.
And I think we dropped any idea about a raffle, and we're having like pre-packaged munchies and drinks provided. Other than that, no open sharing food. So yeah, basically just short, simple this year, just like last year.
You know,
And
speaking
no fees. Yeah.
attendance, I talked to Howard Cox and he told me that he and his brother were both planning to come, Craig. And I said, I didn't see you on the list. Have you let Jeff know? And he said, no, I haven't yet. And I said, well, you know, please let Jeff know because he's trying to keep a list of how many people are coming. So.
They can email Jeff and he'll catch it by either now or when he gets back.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Any questions about EISP?
That's going to start Saturday, not Friday?
That's the plan, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
No, wait a minute. Isn't going to start Friday night?
But the dates I have are September 4th through 6th. 4th is a Saturday.
Well,
I thought the
not what I
last time we
understood.
talked about this, it was gonna start Friday. And then we were gonna extend it until Monday because Monday was a holiday. I didn't think that we were gonna move the starting date.
I don't remember just, no, ah. So, yeah, I'm lost.
Yeah, I can't remember. I thought we always had it like Friday and Saturday and people lingered over into Sunday, but I mean, that's what I always thought. Jim, wasn't it that way?
Yes, I think so. I'm just trying to look at Jeff's email and see if I can get some confirmation.
Let's see. All right, let's see if I can find something here. Eastern Iowa Star Party. It's free this year. Doing a swap meet. Email about the swap meet. Will be held. Okay, here's this. It will be held at Menke Observatory from the afternoon of Friday, September 3rd, and finish the morning of Monday, September 6th. Okay. Okay, I got it now. So
It
it
does
is.
start Friday. Okay.
So it is Friday night through Monday. Well, through Friday night through Monday morning.
Okay. I
That's
just
what
wanted to know
thought.
which day I was supposed to bring my camper out. So
Yes.
I think you're gonna have a neighbor too, Rusty.
oh, I am.
Yeah, I think there's somebody else with a camper that requested to stay there in that same location on that weekend, I guess.
Ah. Okay.
Okay. So it is the third through the 6th, which means that, yeah, the calendar here. Confusing calendar dates. Don't do that to me. All right. Okay, so got that straight. All right. Any questions on that? Any other questions on that? On it? That? This? The other thing?
No questions.
Oh, I love being president.
Are they gonna assign a spot this year, or they just
With
land wherever you want?
with only 24 people coming, Jeff was kind of thinking that we didn't necessarily had to draw lines on
Okay.
the grounds.
I think that the only requirement would be those
If
who
you
require
if you
power
need
and those who don't.
electricity, if you need electricity, let us know ahead of time so we make sure we park you close enough to the buildings that you can have it. Any other questions? And what other upcoming events?
Just, I guess a comment about electrical, and this may have been communicated. I think that what we were thinking of is for those people that wanted electricity, if they could bring 1 or 2 extension cords, it would help us get electricity to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anything else? All right. And then after that, September 13th is PAC's next meeting. And then September 18th, PAC is having another public night at Niabe. And that takes us up to the next general meeting of QCAS, which we'll cover later. All right. Any further discussion about upcoming events? Actually, I have a question. Alan, Rusty, what are your COVID policies for PAX public events?
Well, that's a good question. We haven't really had any discussion about that. I guess at this point, we don't really we don't really have any for our club observing sessions that we have out at Castle Observatory. We haven't mandated mask requirements, and for Niabi Zoo in our public sessions, we haven't had any this year. So the only thing that we have done is typically, like with the PACMO, for example, we've been using the flat screen TV monitor and video equipment to show objects to groups that can socially distance if they feel more comfortable doing that. We aren't encouraging people to clamber up ladders and look through eyepieces like we might have done in the past. We aren't doing that anymore. So I don't know, maybe it's something we need to discuss if it's going to be an issue, but so far we haven't established any requirements there. I don't know. What do you think, Rusty?
I think we've just been, well, going by what good old Illinois governor's been kind of saying, hasn't it?
Yeah. And as far as the club meetings that we've been having at the Butterworth Center, I think they're suggesting people wear masks, but you know, I don't think it's mandatory. It hasn't been mandated yet, so I guess we follow whatever Butterworth Center requires. That kind of mirrors, you know, what the state of Illinois requirements are. So we'll probably take our cues, you know, from what they suggest or what they mandate. And so far, we don't have any change there.
All right. I will say this: St. Ambrose is not requiring masks outside on any of its properties. So
Yeah.
it's the same will apply to Menke Observatory. All right. Now let's see. Next on the agenda. Anybody bought any new gear recently? Is that why we've had a string of good weather lately?
I haven't bought anything, no. I know Gamino bought something that he brought the last time we were out there to Menke, but he's not here to talk about it, so. I don't know anybody else that have bought anything.
Well, somebody did, and it segues into the next item on the agenda, gear for sale. At the last board meeting, we approved the sale of QCAS's 16-inch scope and the old 14-inch scope from Menke. And Jim and I are now in the process of working on the paperwork to make at least the sale of the old 14-inch official in the eyes of St. Ambrose.
So, Jim, would it be okay for you to just pay the difference between the two scopes and the money that we're supposed to reimburse you? That way, we don't even have to write a check?
That would be okay with me.
What do you think, Robert?
Well, Jim and I are going to try, as far as the paperwork is concerned, Jim suggests the option of for the 14-inch, we make the documentation say that we are donating it to the club. And so the money for the scope was going to go into the club's observatory relocation fund anyway. We're
Right.
just thinking this might cut out the middleman of trying to write a check to whoever it would go to at St. Ambrose for $300 and then try to get that $300 back to the club.
Right.
So I'll pass the idea along to my department heads, see if, and to general accounting, see if that's okay with them, then we'll go ahead with that. Otherwise, I'll need to contact them again to find out exactly who the $300 check would need to be made out to. Exactly.
Yeah, but
who-
even then, you know, for the 16, no, yeah, for the 16-inch.
The 16-inch, that's entirely your, that's
So we can
entirely,
probably discount that 150 from that amount and then we'll just pay the difference. I think that would work. Save us the trouble of having to write you a check.
That's fine with me.
so I'll set,
It's all part of the observatory relocation, so the money that's going in and the money that's going out, it's all observatory relocation, so
right,
it works out pretty good.
right. So I just want to double check that'd be okay with St. Ambrose's bureaucracy.
Right. But we're covered either way because it's not more than the $300 anyway.
All right then. All right, now. I suppose at this point we'd have a presentation on, would be reviewing the meteor shower party. Obviously, no point in doing that, other than to curse the weather gods. So, which does bring up something I wanted to bring up something I wanted to bring up. That's, yeah, we need to find ideas for meeting presentations again. We've been forgetting about them for months now, but we need to get back into doing that. I mean, at very least, it might be one way to drum up more interest in attending these meetings. So if anybody has any ideas that they could throw out right now, by all means, do so. Otherwise, let's try to come up with someone, like email them to the board members and see if we can get anything to stick.
Yeah, so one thing I'd suggest is that anybody that will volunteer to make a presentation, as Robert said, send that information on to a board member. Or if you want to volunteer a different member that you say, I think this person has something to contribute. Why don't you see if we can talk them into speaking on this subject? So essentially volunteering somebody else, I guess.
It's been known to happen.
Yeah.
Like if you know somebody outside the club who might have a good idea for a presentation, you can talk them into it.
That would be also good.
Incidentally, Alan, Rusty, do you have a presentation lined up for your next PAC meeting?
Next PAC meeting is going to be a smorgasbord event. So basically that's short talks, put on by PAC members. And they're usually fairly short, not more than maybe 5 minutes in length. And I
Like
guess
TED
at this
Talks.
point, at this point, I don't know who's talking or, who's going to do it. We usually don't know till the day of. or when we actually start the meeting, we usually don't know who's gonna talk, but it's usually not been a problem to come up with 4 or 5 short talks for that smorgasbord event. It's also a business meeting, so we'll have a boring packed business meeting, which typically is things that business oriented kinds of things we need to vote on or need to discuss.
I'll bring my pillow.
But after that, then we'll have the smorgasbord.
Okay.
So I don't know what the items are going to be for the meeting. It's usually that's the Vice President Dino Milani organizes the agenda for that, and like I say, we usually don't know until the day of what all's gonna occur there. So it's kind of a surprise meeting.
Mhm.
And otherwise, meetings, we've had a lot of speakers over the, since the COVID-19 has hit us. We've had a lot of speakers from NASA and, Astronomical League, people from all over the country that have spoke at our meetings. We get them to call in, using Zoom. And those have, interestingly enough, have really been pretty good. But it does take a little bit of effort. And some of the speakers, the ones from NASA, don't require any honorarium. Some would like honoraria, and we have had to pay for some of them, a small donation, if you will. But those events have been pretty good. You can see from our newsletters who's spoken and who's planned in upcoming ones. But there are a lot of speakers out there if you're willing to go after them and ask them. There's a lot of people that are available.
Try that, yeah. And as Alan said, yeah, it doesn't have to be an hour-long presentation. It could be nice and short. So anybody ideas for presentations or know some of the good idea? Length is not an issue. It can be an hour, it can be 5 minutes, whatever. All right, let's go and do that. Well, next on the agenda is the treasurer's report. Sam, what do you got?
Okay, let me. Okay, so we have, and this is interesting because I don't know where that, I had some numbers in here. And this does not include your expense for the plans that you sent to the backyard observatories. So on general fund, we have 210612.
210612. Okay.
Yeah, for the event fund, we have 36754.
6754.
And the observatory relocation has 41047.78 for a grand total of 43,521.44.
Very good. And that, you said that's before the expense of getting the plans from backyard observatories. Jim,
Right,
how much? Jim, how much was that again?
I think it was $150.
That's correct, 150. And just for everybody, to clarify, those are some standard plans that he has available for two different size buildings. He has maybe a 10 by 10 plan that costs $40, and he has a plan that's, I think it's 16 feet by 24 feet, was $150. He does not have a standard plan for the size of building that we wanted to build. We did ask him if we could hire him to create such a plan. He hasn't responded to that question. So we decided for $150, it was probably worth making use of his expertise, buying the smaller set of plans, not that they would scale exactly, but at least it would give us a good idea of what he has in his plans, and probably, like I say, a good investment. So that's why we decided we get those plans, add that to our current thinking, and try to draw up at least our plans to move forward with the concrete. I think it's pretty straightforward what we want to do for the dome slab, but a little more complicated for the roll-off building, which is proposed to be 24 feet by 30 feet.
24 by 30, yes. Okay. Before we move on to that, we need to vote on the accepting the treasurer's report. Do I have a motion to approve the report?
I'll move to accept the report as submitted.
Any second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Treasurer's report is approved. All right. Now on to updates in the observatory relocation. Jim, you brought up the part about the cement slab for the dome. So are we ready to go ahead with that?
I think the short answer is yes. I think it would be advisable for us to actually give the contractor a drawing just to make, we've had some conversations with him. We've had him to the site and we've made a few changes. And so I think it would be desirable just to have it on a drawing so it's clear exactly what he's giving us, what we're going to get. And then we can move forward with that. The question is, it'll be more economical if we can do two slabs when he's there.
Yes.
It just would be not a good idea to have him try to get him out there this year to pour the slab for the observatory dome, and then yet this year get him back for the roll off. I just don't think we'll get him there. He's busy enough. So if we still need to decide, can we firm up our design? And at the last board meeting, I think we were making more progress for people, I think, believing that we didn't need the full-blown frost-proof foundation. We just need to firm up what that's going to be and then see if we could also do that at the same time. So it's kind of a extended answer to your question. Yes, I think we can get the dome slab done, and maybe we can at least get the design, and we can see if we can get the contractor. And I don't know if Mike has had any more contact with the contractor. I have not. So Mike, add anything that you would like here.
So I just brought up the email you sent out. It was about a month ago, with the listing the different options for the roll-off roof foundation. And let's see let me share the screen here so you can see which one I'm talking about. Where are you there? Okay, can everybody see this now?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so you kind of broke it off into two sections here. One building option is a floating slab or a slab on 8 12-inch diameter frost-proof footings around the perimeter. Now, is this part here talking about basically the floor of the floor of the new roll-off building, and then this part down here talking about the support for that floor? I'm trying to understand exactly what was written in here.
Yeah, let me reread what I wrote.
Okay.
Okay, the least that we think we should do is have a 6-inch thick floor reinforced with metal rebarring, and then around the perimeter where the weight of the walls would be, that the contractor would thicken that. So that would be 12 inches thick and 12 feet wide. So it's just a thickened slab. And then in addition to that, there needs to be concrete piers. And at this time I said 6, but since then we've gotten some more information from Scott Horstman that would indicate that there needs to be more of those to support that portion when the roof is in the rolled off position. And then the second option was some modified frost proof footings. And we don't even know if that would be desirable. We tried to talk to a couple different engineers. They were too busy to help us with that one.
That's this one?
Yeah, so at this point, I would say we probably would not incorporate that. But the first one, the $9,000, is probably light because we are going to need to put in more piers or more of these vertical posts. So, you know, it's probably in the $10,000 or $11,000 range to do that. The next one down, the next paragraph where it says frost-proof foundation, like the Minky roll-off. This is as if you were building a garage that was attached to a house and that you needed to dig down 4 feet into the ground, pour a continuous concrete footer, and then build a concrete wall on top of that to get up to the grade level. And just a real rough number, just to show you a magnitude of differences, you know, you're approaching $20,000 for that kind of foundation. We don't think that that's going to be necessary. And then the other option was a pole building type construction.
Mm-hmm.
The entire building would be supported by posts that are about 6 by 6 inches, and that would then go down to the frost line. And then you would pour a concrete slab after the building was constructed. So you'd still have a concrete floor, but the weight of the building does not set on the concrete floor. It sits on those posts. And we have not gotten a price from a contractor. We have talked to some people that have built pole buildings, and we believe that that would be a less expensive type of construction. We've talked to somebody that has built an observatory 30 years ago, and it's still, you know, functioning. That I think it's the two biggest concerns. So at least one board member said, if we can save money, then that's the way to go. Let's look into that. I think there's been at least one other board member that has said, I think that type of construction will be more difficult to keep bugs out of it. and the appearance will be more of a farm building than a building that's similar to what Minky has. And if we decide appearances is a concern and we try to make that pole barn look nicer or look closer to the buildings at Minky, we may end up spending as much money on it. So I guess where I've been leaning towards, and the other thing is that Scott Horstman is the guy that has built about 300 observatories. We'd like him to build ours if he has time in his schedule. And he doesn't use the pole building construction unless maybe you want it raised off the ground. So I guess I'm leaning towards, let's see, the top one, the floating slab with a thickened, is what we're leaning towards. And when we see the drawings from Scott, if it reinforces that that's the way he builds them, then I think the board will again meet and just say, is that the way we want to go? Or does somebody have strong desires to go elsewhere? I mean, that's how I would describe where I think we currently are. Although I could certainly, float one way or the other.
Well, I can put in some 2 cents here. I pass this information on to our department chair, Mohammed El Zain. He's just started off as a department chair, and he's come in with like 30 years experience with engineering. And he says that any one of these designs would be stable enough as long as the supports get down below the frost line. If money was no object, he would lean toward this this option here with the frost-proof foundation with the wall. But any one of these would provide enough support for the building, in his opinion.
Okay, good. I saw, you copied me on the email that you sent him. It's good feedback. I think we're probably in alignment with him. Yeah, the best, if money was no object, would be put in the frost-proof foundation, but trying to be good stewards of the money. If
But
there's
money is not an object. Yes.
right. So yeah, that's good input from him. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, if you could do the floating slab one at the top, and that would work. That would probably be the most cost effective and tie in with the rest of the whole landscape out there and everything. I would tend to lean towards that myself. And then, like Jim says, we got about 8 piers to put in for the support posts that support the roof when it rolls off to the west.
And it just occurred to me, you were talking about trying to get this all done in one go. If we went with this pole building construction, then the concrete floor would be poured after the building is erected. So we need to bring this guy out twice anyway. Unless we want to pour that floor ourselves.
I would think that they would pour the footings for the, there's 8, 10, 12, 4x4 or 6x6 posts in there. They could put that 1/4-inch fiber board around those, and then they could pour the concrete floor right away too.
You do that? Okay. So I'm taking away from this that our options for the roll-off are still open.
They said the other day, well, I saw it on trading sites that I look at, that the inflation factor is starting to come back down a little bit. So, I got a price from Menards there 2 months ago for, I think, Jim, wasn't it $13,700 or something? It'd be interesting to see what that lumber package for the building is now, just for the heck of it.
Good to hear.
Might have come down, 1,000 or two, anything helps.
Yeah.
If I'm out there and have a little time at Menards, I go back to the guy that does the takeoffs on it and see if he can, throw together another updated price.
Yeah, and I think the first step is get concrete poured, ideally for the two buildings. And then it allows us to move the dome and building from Sherman Park, get that in place, lets us, put a telescope in there. And then we can decide, can we get a contractor to build the roll? If we have the slab in place, then it gives us the option of, is there still enough of the season left to build the building? Is there a contractor that has time in his schedule? Or do we just schedule it for next year? And the other factor would be, what's the price of construction doing? Is lumber come down a little bit or a lot? Do we want to, it may be that we can't get somebody. I mean, it's already the middle of August. I think it's probably unlikely that we're going to get the building built. We'll be doing pretty good if we get the concrete in, but we could get the dome moved.
I would say a realistic goal would be for sure get the dome slab poured and get the dome building over. Then you're basically out of Sherman Park. And then, and if it works out that you get the concrete done for the roll off at the same time, that'd be good. Maybe Dan, the concrete guy, they say, well, it's going to cost you more if we have to come back. And yeah, maybe, but maybe he'll treat us right too, but I just think as late as it's getting, just to get the concrete poured for the dome building and get enough of the membership to, bring over the dome and the walls.
Yes.
I think it's a realistic goal, and we still accomplish really two things. We're at Minky now, and we also are pretty much broke the ties with Sherman Park.
Yes. And Jim, what was the name of that? The Day Foundation? Is that the one you said that you're expecting an answer from them by the end of this month?
And that's what they have on their website, is that they'll make a decision by the end of August of the grant requests that were submitted. And we had submitted a request for consideration for them. So we don't have too much history with them. So we don't have any idea how favorable they may look on our project, but we'll see what happens.
And then there was another grant you're talking about, McCarthy something.
Yeah, there's McCarthy Bush. I think that's McCarthy that donated enough money for McCarthy Hall to be named after their family. I thought it was worth a try. They're a big contractor in the Quad Cities, general contractor. They've helped Augustana High School out. They've helped obviously St. Ambrose out. So I just sent them a letter of inquiry asking them, if they would like to hear more about our project. And I have not received a response one way or the other yet. And I just don't know, what some of these organizations have a fixed schedule that they take requests once a year, twice a year. When you go to their website, they don't specify that. So I don't know, maybe it's typical. You send them a letter and you don't hear from them for 6 months. I just don't have any feel for that. But I thought I know we won't get anything if we don't ask them. So that was the philosophy on sending them a letter.
I did ask about them in an email I sent to Muhammad, and he didn't answer about them.
Okay.
Or maybe he's too new at Ambrose to have heard much about them. I see Rolando just joined us.
I hope
Aye.
You know, also, this is a little farther down the line, but it's like anything. Reminds me of when I built my ultralight airplane and I seen the manual to build it, and I thought, holy smokes, this is really involved. And after I built the first one, if I had to build the second one again, it'd take me probably less than half the time. And it's kind of the same way with looking at the pictures that Jim and I took over at Sherman Park's roll off. And the more I go back through the last couple of months and review those pictures, I'm kind of thinking that, you know, if you could find the hardware for the roll off, and the angle iron isn't hard to find, I mean, that's the track. And the wheels, they've got to sell those V-grooved wheels somewhere. But basically, it appears to me by studying the pictures that what I thought looked very difficult in the very beginning is now making more and more simpler sense by studying it. And when we talked to Dan, the concrete guy, if we can't get Scott or somebody else to build it, that this contractor, Robert, that works for Lovewell Fence, that I really think that somebody like that would be very capable of picking up on that and being able to build it. I mean, I'm thinking of backup because we're not getting much response from this Scott guy. We've got to have some other resources to go on. And I really feel like that what I thought was even complicated is starting to make more and more sense with the pictures that I took and study them from time to time.
Yeah, and I think that the plans that we're buying from backyard observatories will just add to our confidence that if it comes to that we can direct a contractor who maybe hasn't built a building that has a roof that rolls away, but that we can still get a good product.
Yeah. The one of the things that kind of boggled my mind at first is how they bring that soffit down, because some of them got like a brush type of thing where it brushes up against it to make a seal so that you know, it keeps the weather and animals out. And by studying those pictures, I can kind of see how it in the Minky roll off compared to Sherman Park roll off is pretty much the same concept. And what that even looked complicated doesn't look as complicated. And when you roll it off to the west, the flap on the west side would just be a little bit farther down. So when you bring the roof back over, it seals right up against the 7-foot wall. It's the east wall that comes back that wouldn't have a flap to come over. And I've got to study that more, how they did that. But you know, it's making more sense the more and more like I said, look at it. And I think this Robert guy, I have faith in this Dan guy. I think if Dan thought that this Robert guy wouldn't be capable of doing it, he would speak up.
If we go back to the dome and its building, again, the proposal is to get a concrete slab put in place, and then we just move the existing dome and building over to the Minky site and set it in place, bolt it down. Some club members basically did that before, and it had been suggested that some of the people that were the most involved with that, and I'm not sure we'll give credit to everybody that was involved, because I know there were different people in different phases of it, but I do know that John Baker and Dana Taylor were a couple of them that were involved in that. And it had been suggested to me that we talk to Dana to see if he would help us with that part of the project. He's still in the club, but his activity kind of comes and goes. And I asked John Baker to talk to Dana because the two of them had worked together on the later phases of setting that dome in place. And Dana said, once the heat gets over, he was willing to help with that. And I said, well, we're definitely not going to be ready during the heat of the summer yet. So just to let you know, Dana and John Baker have volunteered, and I think there'll be other people just to add some manpower to help with that move and setting that in place.
Yeah, Jim, you and I talked about that, and since Dana was a part of that with the tractor with the lift on it to lift it off, and he's very familiar with that. If he would be the brains behind it, and we get 4 or 5 more people over there, it would go pretty quick. Again, it's somebody that's familiar with it, that's done it, that can lead, and we're not trying to figure it out the first time.
Yeah, so just wanted to let everybody know Dana is willing to help, so, or maybe even lead that phase of the project.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. I like that idea very much.
And he started asking questions about, well, do we have a tractor? Do we have a trailer? No, we're gonna have to get those, but he thought, he thought it was doable, so. He asked, he just got into the brainstorming about, could we move the building and the dome attached as one piece? Whereas we were thinking of breaking it apart. And I said, I don't know. I can see some potential problems, like that's going to be pretty tall. We need to make sure we don't run into any overhead obstruction, but yeah, go for it. Think of the different ways to get that accomplished.
I can't think of any overhead obstructions between Sherman Park and Wapsie.
Yeah, wires, power wires, communication wires are one thing that is always a potential problem, but maybe there are.
I don't think the building's tall enough that they'd be an issue.
Just something to check. You
just got to think of, by the time you lift that on top of a 3-foot tall trailer, and the height of the building and the dome, just how many feet tall is that? And is there anything in the way?
But that does bring up another issue. If you were to try to move it all in one piece, you'd probably need a flatbed trailer.
Yes, I think before, when we moved it, we did move it, well, we didn't have the building yet. And we moved it in pieces on a trailer. So we'll just have to find a suitable trailer, and probably fairly easy to get somebody with a pickup truck that can pull it and make it happen.
Yeah, well. So yeah, you figure out the logistics of that first.
Yep.
I do wonder something. So we currently have $40,000 plus in the relocation fund. Is that enough right now to lay out both cement slabs at least?
Oh, I'm very confident that it's enough for the concrete work. It's probably not enough to also build the roll off building.
Not as it is right now, yes.
That we envision, but we've got the money to go ahead and at least do the concrete work and move the dome. And then we'll have to fine tune what's the cost going to be for the roll off building.
And yeah, so we were at least confident about that. And well, as we said, we're still waiting. Shouldn't be long before we hear back from the Day Foundation, whether or not we get money from them. And then we've got at least another grant prospect in the fire. So
yeah, I mean, just an example of some of the thinking is, if we had decided that we needed to put in the full foundation building, and that was rough estimate, getting close to $20,000, then probably in my mind, we'd have to think of, let's build a smaller building, or let's put this off for another year until we get more money. Now, there were some people that said, no, we don't want to build a smaller building. Well, I know we want our cake and eat it too,
Well, it sounds to me like we were talking about holding off on a roll-off building itself until next year anyway, as things stand right now.
Yeah, it's just that if we can get the concrete work done, if we
yes
firm up what to get the concrete done. At least we've got that, done.
Right.
I think there's enough money to do all the concrete work, bring the dome over, which will be basically our manual labor. And I think you got enough money for the construction package or the material package for the roll off. But the iffy part is the contractor you hire. Is there, what's his price going to be? That's where we might be short.
Well, we'll have an answer about the day grant by the time of the next board meeting. So we'll put that on the board meeting agenda. So for the next board meeting, let's finalize our decisions on how we're going ahead and what we're going ahead with.
I think the only thing that we need for dimensions on that roll-off or the dome building, Jim, is the exact diameter for the lip of the walls that it's going to sit on. And once you got that diameter, it's pretty simple from there. It goes from whatever that diameter is straight to the either to the south or to the north, or maybe it's to the west. I can't remember how many feet it comes out to a square on the other end. And you got a footing to put in the middle, but that's the most crucial thing, I think, is figuring out the actual diameter for the dome to sit on, the dome walls.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on the observatory relocation project?
So if we come up with this concrete thing, especially for the dome building, how would Jim and I know to have the authority to move forward? We're going to have to wait till another board meeting or membership meeting, or what takes place?
Well, our next board meeting is early next month, right after, hopefully we get an answer about the day grant. So we will finalize our plans, what we want to decide to do at the next board meeting. And from there, we'll give whatever authorization is needed to go ahead.
Okay.
Does that sound like a plan?
Yeah, it's supposed to be kind of, go ahead, Jim.
Well, I was gonna say, I think that's a reasonable plan. The only thing that I would say is that if Mike and I get those plans from Scott, draw up something that we're ready to take to the contractor and try to firm something up. And if we're a little bit of ahead of that board meeting, we'll send out emails
Then email us. Yes.
and ask you for permission to commit to some money sooner.
It's a good plan. You email us, then we'll handle the authorization that way.
And
Sounds great.
meantime, maybe I need to call Dan again just to reassure him that he isn't way back on the burner. And
Yes, yes.
because if you don't stay on schedule and these guys get busy, then you're going to be out to lunch for this fall. And we need a little time.
You do
It's supposed to
that.
be warm for the next 2 or 3 weeks. It's supposed to be kind of a warm fall, but if we got the concrete done, it'd cool off a little bit for us to do the physical work with Dana. That I think would all kind of coincide, but we got to get serious about this concrete.
Yes, agreed. Okay. So you get onto that, and Jim, as soon as you get to those plans, you and Mike hash it out between you, email the rest of the board, and we'll take it from there. All right.
Yep.
All right. Anything else? Is there any other old business that anyone wants to bring up? Going once, Going twice. Any new business you want to bring up?
So if I talk to Eric Maitland, I got the QCAS public nights down. What about Minky's public nights?
Well, we've only got one more this season. That's October 2nd. But yes, if you want to, yes, we should get the word out about that. If you want to you can contact Eric Maitland about that, then please do so. And could you give him my contact information as well,
Okay,
if he wants more information?
all right, your email, which we have.
I should be on the list there somewhere.
And that is October for Minky's open house is October what?
October 2nd.
Okay. So if he could plug any of those and the newspaper with QCAS or Minky's public nights to try to draw some people out there.
Yes.
I don't know about directions, what they should say. It's north of Dixon, Quad City, or the Wapsie Educational Center.
Wapsie River Environmental Education Center.
Yeah. And a lot of people know how to run their maps on their phones. So, you know, it'd be great if that was shown on the map. I think it probably does. I'm sure the Wapsie Educational Center does show. And
well, they've got their own website. People could look it up there.
yeah. And you could always drive a post in the ground right there where you turn onto it or whatever. But if you get a lot of cars, they need to go all the way around and park on the east side.
Parking lot A.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I want to talk to Eric anyway, so that'd be a good chance. And I know he's got an email address, and instead of calling him all the time, I could say, okay, we got a public night at Minky or QCAS. And if you can plug it in there for 30 seconds or a minute, we'll take whatever we can get.
Thank you. Any other new business?
Well, going back to that last topic, just as a follow-up to that, Mike, I'm going to send you a copy of all of the scheduled events for Minky and QCAS. Robert was my source on this. So I'm going to send it to Mike, but I'm going to copy you, Robert, in case you see anything wrong there or anything
Okay.
that's changed.
All right. Any other business? Going once, going twice, going twice and a half. So our next general meeting is September 20th. And again, if anybody has ideas for presentations for that or future meetings, please email the board. And Sam, did you have your hand up, Sam, or? No? Okay. All right, is there anything else? Anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Third.
All right. Board members, could you hang on just so I can ask a quick question? It's a quick question, I promise you. Other than that, I'll call this meeting closed.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, everyone have a good night.
You too?
All right. Not that there's that many of us board members here, but
That's, well, just want to say, so if we stick to the schedule, then our next board meeting would be September 6th, which is the last day of EISP. But as we said, the ESP is only going toward Monday morning, so is everyone okay with still having the board meeting that night, or would you prefer that we reschedule it?
And it is the holiday.
And it is Labor Day, yes.
What about that next month, the following Wednesday or the next Monday?
The following Monday, that's PAX meeting, but that Wednesday, the 8th, that would work for me.
Well, that's usually when the meeting used to be.
The board meetings used to be, yes.
Yeah, maybe we can do it Wednesday instead of Monday.
So Wednesday, the 8th instead?
Yeah,
Okay, I'll
That's fine
send,
with- That's fine with me.
all right, I'll send out an email and notice to that effect.
okay.
And that's all I need, that's all I wanted to know, so.
Okay, good to
Is
see
there anything
everybody.
else? Yep,
Okay, good to see you.
good to see you too.
Okay.
All right, have a good night, everyone.
Okay, good night.